Ines is a 6-star Agent Vanguard and has been one of the most highly anticipated and predicted operators within Arknights since she first appeared in Arknights' memoir. She was first released as of a few weeks ago at the time of recording with the release of Chapter 12 and is only available currently through headhunting. I don't believe I covered what Agent Vanguards are in my Terms and Slang video on Arknights, as they most likely didn't exist at the time, and if they did, oh well, it serves as a refresher. Agent Vanguards are single-block vanguards that focus on hit-and-run tactics, can hit aerial enemies, and have a significantly faster redeploy than your standard Vanguard at averaging around 35 seconds. Essentially, they're a fast redeploy executor specialist that can generate DP. Ines has a whole 19 years of combat experience, some of the highest combat experience in-game, which is coming from her time as a mercenary in Kazdel. She stands at 168 centimeters tall, was born on the 19th of February in Kazdel, and is actually a Capernae disguising herself as a Sarkaz, specifically a black goat. In her archive files and promotion record, it's noted that when Ines first arrived at Rhodes, many ops were curious about how Ines could appear and disappear at will, as well as questioning how Ines tolerated and fought alongside W for so long. As more and more ops failed to find Ines, more and more began taking it seriously until Calicut put a stop to it. But there are two major things that the trackers miss when trying to find Ines, or so claims the overly curious desk worker writing this. The first is that Ines couldn't have familiarized herself with the landship that quickly, unless she was on it a while ago and spent a significant amount of time on it, which we, the player, know she did in Arknights' memoir. The second is that Ines' arts are more prevalent in Lethenian than Kazdel, but Ines was in Kazdel for a long time, meaning a more direct connection, which we also know since she's a Capernae, the native race of Lethian, and was born in Kazdel. Cross-referencing was done on W using documents and logs from the past 10 years, and found Ines' presence in them, always staying clear of the center of action like something was holding her back. However, shortly after the investigation began, Ines put an end to it, with the desk worker being transferred to a department where his talents are better suited and to not cause trouble for others. Unlike the average mercenary in Kazdel, Ines has changed teams a few times over her career as a merc. But, as always, she stayed loyal to her partner, Hodurer. Ines refuses to reveal more about her personal relationships, and since the Victoria incident, facing Sarkaz mercs in combat is increasing. Hodurer doesn't mind talking about how he and Ines met, but Ines is quite shy about it. Ines remembers how she, in the White Birch Forest, was forced to stain her hands with blood, surviving the hook and the crook, and how a wily Sarkaz youth, Hodurer, about her age, came from the sky, collected kills and bounties, then extended a helping hand, where she essentially became Hodur's right-hand woman thereafter. Her third archive file is a transcript of Ines talking to the doctor. Essentially, Ines tells the doctor that they won't be able to change her like they changed Emiya. Ines also cares about how the doctor treats W, and that as long as W insists, Ines will trust the doctor again. But the doctor must know where Ines and W stand in their plans, or there will be consequences. Ines always gives Rhodes Island operators heading for Kazdel for the first time a piece of advice. Don't get hung up on Kazdel's friction with Rhodes Island's values. For example, Ines' group ambushed a Lethenian smuggler group, only leaving behind a small Capernae boy. Ines gave the boy two options: die by his parents' bodies, or wander into the forest and die alone. Before the boy left for the forest, Ines gave him a file to use, his one lifeline, and a possible way to be saved. Her promotion record is a transcript between two people, one supposedly being Ines, and the other, by my guess, is either Hodurer or W. To summarize, Ines believes that people must think carefully about where they stand when the next Kazdel war comes. Ines is confirmed to be infected. She has a cell originum assimilation of 11% and a blood originum crystal density of 0.21 parts per liter. There's a few notes in her clinical analysis. There are crystals on her body, but Ines refuses to do any cosmetic treatment. Due to her activities in Kasdel, Ines's infection status was expected, but, like W, it hasn't caused her trouble. There's a note from a medical operator saying that Ines's indifference has frustrated the confidence of the medical staff, especially when she disappears during the data collection phase. There's also a note from operator Escallion saying, rejected, she knows the score. In her character art, with the original design being by Leduc and her operator art drawn by Via, Ines wears a black, open-shoulder, zip-up turtleneck sweater, with a tight-fitting pencil skirt, red collar, red half vest with vials on the left shoulder, a partially torn black and red dress bottom hanging from her skirt, which has multiple pouches and at least 6 knives hanging from it, a belt around her midsection, a few red ribbons hanging behind her, fingernails painted black, and black knee-high boots, the left boot having a metal knee pad. She holds a dagger in her left hand, which has a twisted blade and a similar longsword resting on her left hip. In her voice lines, voiced by Ayumi Sunimatsu, who also voices Kiryu Hikifune in Bleach, Maya Hisao in Fate Zero, Miki Edamura in The Great Pretender, Marina Ismail in MSG 00, Aki Kikuchihara in Recreators, Hokuto in Naruto, and Alicia Lopez in Astral Chain, Ines often talks about herself and her past.
どんな状況でも勝てるのは昔と変わらないわね。ただあの頃と違って、その喜びように偽りはなさそうだけど、素晴らしいわね。戦争の渦中にあっても、こんな馬鹿げた様式美を重んじているなんて。あなたの夢は、想像よりずっと穏やかなのね。あのトレイだけど、W がご丁寧に私たち一人一人に用意したモーニングコールだから、蓋を取らずに捨てた方がいいわ。あいつのイカれ具合は、カズデルの郊外に生い茂る雑草みたいに、年々勢いを増してるのよ。そんな狂人を信じる方も、きっともう理性を失っているんでしょうね。ええ。あれは裁縫セットで間違いないわ。でも、傭兵の針が浴びてきた血の量は、剣に勝るとも劣らないのよ。というか、戦場で身だしなみを整えておくのが大変だってことくらい、わからない？カズデルの北部には、バーチの林が広がっているわ。開白色の木は、凍える風に倒れながらも、翌年になれば、芽吹こうともがくものよ。だけど、最後に残った木々が死に絶えた時、もう春が来ないことを知る気はないでしょうね。窓に映るかすかな光は、荒野に生きる人たちが起こした焚き火ね。W が私の焚き火好きを茶化してた？焚き火に照らされた影は嘘をつけないの。私が見てるのは、自分自身なのかもしれないわね。死を見慣れたはずの傭兵が非現実的な理想に身を捧げた。本当に馬鹿げた話ね。強いて言うなら、自分の死が便利な手段にとどまらないことを期待していたのかもしれない。それだけのことよ。この船も、あの医者も、殿下も、それからあなたも。みんな変わったってことを、この目が教えてくれたわ。まあ、W はあなたに関しては上手に演技してるだけって思ってるみたいだけどね。それから、本人は認めたがらないけど、あいつ自身もいろいろ変わったのよ。私たちにもう選択肢はないけど、足元の影は絶えず変化していくものだから。私がこんなものを見る必要があるとでも思ってるの？あの時カズデルであなたが指揮していたのは私の部下なのよ。
At E2 level 90 with max trust and potential, Ines has 2,121 HP, 639 attack, 311 defense, 0 resistance, a 31-second redeployment time, 9 DP cost, 1 block, and has an attack speed of just under 1 second. Her range is the standard range of an Agent Vanguard, that being the 2 tiles ahead of her. At max trust, she gets plus 50 attack and plus 30 defense. At max pot, she gets minus 2 DP, minus 4 seconds to redeploy, plus 8 attack speed, and a buff to her first talent. Her first talent, Shadow Weaver, which is unlocked at E1 and maxed at E2 pot 4, the first hit Ines does on each enemy binds them for 5 seconds and steals 100 attack, with the effect expiring when the enemy dies or Ines retreats. This means that if Ines were to attack Manfred, for example, his attack would go from 1000 to 900. Her second talent, Shadow Sentry, which is unlocked at E2, enemies within Ines' attack range lose invisibility and have minus 30% move speed. After Ines retreats, she leaves behind a Shadow Sentry with the same effect. Ines has 2 base skills, with one getting unlocked at E2. Her first base skill, Personnel Management Beta, gives plus 35% HR contacting speed when Ines is assigned to the HR office. Her second base skill, Shadow Gathering, when Ines is assigned to the reception room, plus 20% search speed, with plus 2% search speed per hour being gained until the max of plus 30% search speed is reached. This takes 5 hours to reach. Ines' first skill, Shadow Raid, gains SP from attacking and is automatically triggered. Level 7 starts with 0 SP and needs 3 SP to proc, while M3 starts with 3 and needs 3 to proc. At level 7, the next attack deals 55% attack as arts damage to the target every second for 3 seconds. The damage doesn't stack, and you gain 2 DP. At M3, it's 80% attack as arts damage over 3 seconds for the next attack. At level 7, it does 351 damage per second for a total of 1054 damage over 3 seconds. At M3, it does 511 damage per second for a total of 1534 damage over 3 seconds. Her second skill, Murky Knight, gains SP over time and is manually triggered, lasting 12 seconds at all levels. Level 7 starts with 15 SP and needs 24 SP to proc, while M3 also starts with 15 but needs 20 to proc. At level 7, Ines' range expands to the 2x3 grid in front of her, plus 1 tile. She gets plus 80% attack and invisibility, with each attack granting 1 DP. She also steals 6 attack speed to a maximum of 60 from the target. The stolen attack speed lasts until the skill ends or Ines retreats. At M3, it's plus 110% attack and stealing 7 attack speed from the target to a max of 70. At level 7, Ines' attack is raised to 1150. At M3, it's raised to 1342. Also, for reference, the average attack speed number is 100, so having literally 70% of your attack speed taken from you really harms you as an enemy. Her third skill, Solitary Return, is passive and doesn't require any SP whatsoever. At level 7, it lasts for 13 seconds, while at M3, it lasts for 16 seconds. At level 7, Ines' first deployment costs 0 DP, but places a Shadow Sentry instead of Ines, immediately refreshing her deployment time. After Ines is actually deployed, she gets plus 120% attack, immediately retrieves the Shadow Sentry, and deals 140% attack as physical damage to up to 5 enemies the Shadow Sentry passes through. While the skill is active, you gain 1 DP for each attack on an enemy. At M3, it's plus 160% attack and deals 200% attack as physical damage to up to 6 enemies the Shadow Sentry passes through. Ines is great, not as a DP generator like your typical Vanguard, but as a disruptor and a debuffer. While yes, she can generate DP, her usefulness with her debuffs far outshines that. Starting with her archetype, she can quickly redeploy from one tile to another, as well as hit aerial enemies. For talents, the first binds her enemies, meaning that if you use her against the flying soldiers or skimming sea drifters, they'll be immediately brought down to Earth and can be blocked by normal ops, as well as being able to steal up to 100 attack from the enemy. While their second talent reveals invisible enemies, a la Silver Ash's Eagle Eyes, while also giving them minus 30% move speed, with the Shadow Sentry she leaves behind having the same effect when she retreats. And then we have her skills. The first does arts damage over time, is super quick to recharge and proc, and also gives a bit of DP, while all of her skills do. Her second skill extends her range, gives her invisibility, an attack buff, and can slow an enemy's attack speed up to minus 70. And finally, we have her third skill, which does damage to multiple targets, buffs her attack, has her deal more damage with her attacks, and essentially makes her first deployment free. The only downside I can see with Ines is that if you really do need to pay close attention to her to make sure you use the skill at the right time, redeploy her, etc., and that she needs enemies in range in order to generate DP. But overall, she's a great harasser and debuffer against either stronger enemies or bosses. Imagine fighting, for example, Patriot, who now has minus 100 attack and minus 70 attack speed, and how much easier it would be to fight him. Or when fighting a wave of enemies, slowing multiple of them down to either buy your other ops more time, or just allow them to attack many at once. Highly recommend building Ines and getting both her S2 and S3 to M3 ASAP. But be mindful to use her as a debuffer and not DP generation, because you got your Pioneer, Single Block, and Flag, Standard Bearer, Vanguards to do that. Thank you for watching. Please follow my Twitter for updates, and please check out my other Azure Lane and Girls Frontline videos as well. There will be a teaser out tomorrow for next week's character summaries.